Hi everyone, Helen Blunden here. Hope you're happy, healthy and well. It is time for a new book haul where I talk about some of the books that I bought. Now today I went to Savers Superstore, and if you're interested you can find that in Moorabbin on Warrigal Road here in Melbourne. It is a big op shop, a big opportunity store that sells all sorts of recycled goods, everything from clothing, kitchenware, DVDs, CDs, what else? Belts, shoes, and books. Lots of books. The books that they've got there at the Savers Superstore is actually quite surprising, because when you go to secondhand bookstores, usually the books that you find there are actually quite, current bestsellers, I guess. And I was surprised that I got some very good literary classics and some very good authors out there who are prize winners over there, which only I would say, I'm assuming that there can only be some students out there who are just trying to flog and get rid of their school texts, which, hey, I'm all for it because I'm winning here. So let's talk about what books I've got. Arthur and George is the first one by Julian Barnes. It's got 21 here, and that was the publishing house Vintage, their 21st anniversary, where they started publishing different books that were quite popular and publishing them in a set. Personally, I don't like this color, and I assume all the other books are all going to be of different colors. But anyway, I'll see that in my travels if I do come across another one with a 21 sticker on there. Arthur and George is, I think, based on a true story. Arthur comes from a very rich background in the 19th century. George from a very traditional, very hard working class background in England. Something about this book reminds me a little bit about Jeffrey Archer of Cain and Abel of sorts. I'm wondering if that is the case. I don't know. I've not read of this book. I don't know who Arthur and George is. But given that it is a case at the time, I would not be surprised that I'll probably go down a rabbit warren exploring who these guys were, what they did, why they did it, and what happened, because that's what I do. Whenever I read a book, I always have to go and delve into the story outside of the book, because that's what I do. Right, the next one is Julian Barnes, Nothing to Be Frightened Of. It's a really good graphic down here, isn't it? This one is about not to be frightened of death, dying, mortality, grief. And I got this one because, number one, it's Julian Barnes. And number two, I had been thinking for some time, as I'm aging now, that grief, mortality, dying, sickness, I guess aging is very much top of mind now. And I had been thinking that maybe I should start reading books about this particular topic to try and put me into a mindset of preparation. When I was in the Navy, we used to have the 7 Ps, prior preparation prevents piss poor performance. So I think maybe if I know what's coming with mortality and death and grief and dying, that I could be better prepared for it.
What?
That's kind of stupid, isn't it? But anyway, there it is. That is the working of Helen Blunden's brain. Pud's not interested. Righto, this one, Love, Etc. This is a continuation of another book by Julian Barnes, which I have reviewed on this channel. This goes further into the story of Stuart and Gillian, who used to be married, but then Oliver has an affair with Gillian. So this comes many, many years later when Stuart goes back and actually sees what has happened to them. So I'm looking forward to this. It's written in the sense of monologues, and I really like the monologues because this was also in his previous books, and you get a real picture of the different people in this relationship of 3 people. The 2 guys are very different from each other, but the female also is quite astute, and there's a little twist in the end as well. So I'm interested to find out many years later what happened to these three people. So it'll be in here. So I'm looking forward to reading this. The next one is a hardcover copy book, Levels of Life. And I think I've read this as a library book, but I'm happy to read it again. I read books, more than once. This one is about ballooning, photography, love and grief, about putting two things and two people together and about tearing them apart. It was written with his wife, I think, who passed away in 2008. Something tells me I might have to read this book and this book together. Might be interesting to see if I could read them together and see any links and draw comparisons from it, because again, that's what I do. Life lessons from books is from putting different books together and trying to see linkages and alignments and hopefully whacking them over your life too. Righto, Julian Barnes, what else have I got from you, mate? Okay, England. Now, this one is about someone who is putting a map together of all things English, and it becomes bigger than Ben-Hur. You get it? Bigger than Ben-Hur? As every schoolboy knows, you can fit the whole of England on the Isle of Wight. Grotesque, visionary tycoon Sir Jack Pittman takes the saying literally and does exactly that. He constructs on the island the Project, a vast heritage centre containing everything English, from Big Ben to Stonehenge, from Manchester United to the White Cliffs of Dover. The project is monstrous, risky and vastly successful. In fact, it gradually begins to rival Old England and even threatens to supersede it. This sounds really interesting. It would also sound very interesting as a place I'd go to anyway for a holiday. It's kind of like Disneyland. I shouldn't say that anyway. Maybe not. Okay, anyway, I think I bought this. Again, that's the danger when you go to secondhand bookstores and you can't remember what you bought previously, because all the covers are different depending on when they were published. And I can seem to recall that I did buy England, but an older version of this book. Now, what happens when I do buy two of the same books? Well, naturally, I'll look at the book cover that I prefer to use. And given that I actually quite like matte covers, I think I'm going to keep this one rather than my previous one, which is an older, shinier cover version. And I think the version also is a lot rattier as well. So I'm going to keep this one. Right, so they're all my Julian Barnes books. And I think by now, I've got every single one of his books, bar his non-fiction books. And like I said, if you want to see the different reviews I have of these authors, all you need to do is go into the search box in my YouTube channel and just type in the author and you'll see all the reviews. Simply because you've already noticed by now that I do one video per book, which is very different to how other booktubers out there do it. So if you want to find a review, just write the author in and see the different videos that I have of each specific book. Okay, moving on. Milan Kundera. Who doesn't like Kundera's work? I love his work, and he's another author who I am slowly building a collection of his books. The books that I have are all in this format, and it just so happens I've quite luckily found them with this particular publishing house. They kind of look the same. This one is the Book of Laughter and Forgetting. And again, if you want to see the previous books I have reviewed, then put them in the search channel. You can also do a search on Czechoslovakia, if you know how to type the spelling of it, because again, I've got some other authors, not of a similar ilk, but who talk about very similar things as his books that I have reviewed. So this one is all about variations. The various parts follow each other like various stages of a voyage, leading into the interior of a theme, the interior of a thought, the interior of a single unique situation, and the understanding of which recedes from my sight into the distance. It is a book about laughter and forgetting and about Prague and about angels. Okay, another good one, I think. So I'll read this and review it, and we'll let you know on this channel. Now, big thank you to one of my readers out there who asked me, Helen, have you read Brooklyn yet? Well, no, I haven't read Brooklyn yet, but I know that this author, I can't pronounce his name, Toybin, has Long Island out. And I deliberately didn't read Long Island because I read it's a continuation of this book. So given that I saw it at Savers, I bought it. So to the viewer out there, you know who you are. Big thank you for this recommendation. I try and capture all your recommendations into a Goodreads collection, and I use that whenever I'm out and about to try and find the books that you recommend for me to read. So please keep recommending, and hopefully out of these books as well, you see something that you want to read and that you can buy or source from your local library or secondhand bookstore. Now, the next one is Kutsia. He's another author I've slowly been trying to build a collection. I've got a whole heap of different books that I have reviewed on this channel by him. This one is a retelling of the Robinson Crusoe story. I don't know much about it. As always, whenever I think of Kutsia, it's kind of like I have to make space for his books in my life, in that I don't want to read any other books because I think sometimes they're a tad little sad or depressing in some way, and so I need to give them my mental space, my mind's space whenever I read them. It's not, I guess I'm saying they're not books that I read with other books at the same time. I read one at a time and really delve deeply into it because they are quite, the tone of the books are always quite heavy and serious for me. And I'm assuming it's going to be the same with this one. These little books, I don't mind. They come from Penguin Books, and they are, I guess, the cheaper version. So this one in Australia would set you back about $15 usually. And there's a whole heap of different titles that you can buy. And I've got some of them here in my library that I have bought. If you like just the plain cover, then that's fine. It just makes these type of books a little bit more affordable for you. However, like I said, this one I bought for $2.49. So I'm looking forward to having this in my collection. And last of all, I thought I'd buy this one, Kylie Reed, Such a Fun Age, and it was longlisted for the 2020 Booker Prize. Now, I know prizes and awards, I don't usually read a book just because it's won a prize, because sometimes I'm going to admit that some of the prize winners I've read haven't been as good as I thought or everyone else thinks. But this one I saw on a list at my local library, and I decided that I'm going to do this book as a book club book. I run a book club at my local golf club, and I decided that we will do this one in January 2025. I saw the book, I bought it, but this was before I got the email from my library saying that they've set aside 10 copies for us at the library that we could use for our club. And this is something that you may or may not know about, and it's for the conveners out there who run their own book clubs. That have you thought about the opportunity of approaching your own library and seeing what they can do to assist and support your own book club? For my library here, they are fantastic. I can say to them that, you know, I want a particular book, they'll get the copies for it, and I can loan them out to my book club members and get them back after about 4 to 6 weeks and return them to the library. So I found out today, just after I had bought and spent a whole $2 on this book, that my library's going to provide copies. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Let me know what you think about these books that I have bought. If you've read any, or if you think I should read one over another first, let me know. And Also, continue to write your recommendations in the comments, because I have set up a Goodreads collection in my Goodreads account where all your recommendations are collated, and that is what I use. If you want to find out what that is, it is in the description box. I've got a link to the Goodreads collection. You can follow it and you can see what other viewers of this channel are also recommending. So you have a ready list of books that you can access, read, find, source, and enjoy. So thank you for listening, and thank you for watching today. Bye for now, and bye from Pud the cat, who has been fast asleep because he's not interested in books, but I am. Anyway, bye for now.